So guess we can start. Hello, I'm Wojtek. I'm working with Łukasz in Katowice.
See you guys. Have a nice evening.
Ciao. So I'll be telling you about the project I'm doing in my free time. Well, I'm not doing much recently. It's pretty much done and it works. So it's home automation done with Raspberry Pi. And one of you used Raspberry Pi in the past? Already, and some of you use Python, so you should know what's that. So my first time with Raspberry Pi was 2013. This is already dead. I have third one, the same as this. I'll tell you a bit about later. So what the application does for me, for my home, it's pretty much two simple things. It operates some switches, some electrical switches, and reads some sensors. And on top of that, I've added scheduling of some events and gathering information about sensors and switches to draw some charts and to see some history. So what I'm using there is the old Raspberry Pi B. I have new one, the 3.0, but I haven't got a chance to use it. Additionally, there are a few electrical things. Maybe I'll show some pictures. So this is 8-port relay controlled by Ethernet. There is very ugly interface there and very ugly API. So that was the reason I used Raspberry Pi to build on top of that something human friendly. And there's the second board I use. Actually, I have 3 of those. 2 others are 4 ports. This one is 8 ports. And this is steered from GPIO, so every pin is GPIO port, and there is a power and and of course ground. So with that, you can use your 8 GPIO pins to steer those switches. Of course, some breadboard and some wires and resistors if needs be. And this is the tiny temperature sensor. This is one-wire Dallas device, which is very cheap and works quite nice. Right. Additionally, I need to use some 20-volt relays and 20-volt power source because I screw my electricity at home. And I didn't connect the blinds, window blinds, which is electrical with the motor, to the central points. Instead of I put Ethernet wire, so I cannot connect those devices directly with 3.3 volt. I need to put 12 volts to that line because it's quite huge. Otherwise, I'll burn my board, which I did anyway. But I need to put 20 volts there and read that and switch. But this is quite easy. Righty. So regarding the cost, it's really low cost, low budget thing. This thing costs like 80 PLNs, which is around 20 euro. And this one is slightly more expensive, costs like 50 euro. And Raspberry Pi is cheap, so this costs like 1 euro. So what I use there, of course, Raspbian, which is go-to software, go-to OS when it comes to Raspberry Pi. There is a GPIO modules. There is supervisor to supervise some Python processes, and I use Apache and WSGI to run Python. There are 2 applications actually. The PiHome app is a Python application, the API, and the PiHome itself is AngularJS thing. Okay, I'll tell you a bit about REST later, but I'll be describing what it does. So first of all, there is Celery. That presentation is a bit old and it's outdated, so there is no RabbitMQ anymore. There is Celery with Redis backend. Thanks to Łukasz. So Celery is using, I use Celery for doing delayed on and off on switches. So let's say I want to turn on the heating for 3 hours. So I turn on the heating and I put the opposite version to the Celery to be run after 3 hours. I use MongoDB in the cloud, some sort of free tier, to store the sensor and the switches state.
How many switches do you have?
It's like 16, but why do you ask?
Using MongoDB for...
Yeah, this is for storing the history, like a log of that.
Can your family operate the house when you're not there?
Yeah, my wife loves that application. My daughter knows Python as well. So memcache is not in use anymore. I use Redis for that, thanks to cache again. And the cron tab module I'll show you in a second. It's used for scheduling. So it's pretty easy. This is the actual application. I'll show you the actual how it works now.
It's gonna be mad. Let's check IP address.
Yeah. So there is those are switches, as you can imagine. I'll show you maybe some code in a minute. So to run it for particular period of time, I use Celery to run it for like 3 hours. So that will be it.
Yeah.
So
It's in Polish anyway.
It's in Polish. So those are pumps. There are different types of switches. There's some sort of abstract switch and switches that arise. Some of those use that Ethernet thingy that I showed you. Some of those use GPIO module, and of course sensors uses the actual Dallas devices.
Is it inside their rooms, and what is on the right? What is there now?
This is outside. This is the kitchen and the entrance, and this is basement on the top.
Where is the Google factory?
So what's connected here is the lights outside the home, the lights in the basement, and this is because there is the motion sensors in the basement, and I turn off it completely in the night because my cat goes back and forth and turning on the light. So during the night, no one goes in the basement except my cat. So I turn it off. The heating, the floor heating, and this is particular the hot water pump. This is the particular use case that I built it for initially, because there's three pipes, and 2 pipes are for hot water, and you have pump. So by the time you pull the tap with hot water, and the time it gets from the basement to the second floor, it takes some time. So there's pump, but you don't want that pump to running all the day because it will consume the heat from the boiler. So it doesn't make sense. So you just run it when you need it actually, and it's pretty good. And those are the blinds, the electrical blinds, and those are like switches that you just push. So the gates and the main gate and the garage gate. So this is the main thing. You can see history of sensors, and this is actually being fetched from Mongo, and the date could be much wider, but may take some time. So you can see there was quite cold yesterday. This is the entrance, so probably someone opened the door because there was some spike. This is very useful thing which I use, which I use on daily basis. So I usually don't use it anymore because everything I do is doing from schedule. So I use cron tab module, which saves me all those REST API calls because it's RESTful API written in Flask. So I can schedule things like I can schedule that the lighting on the outside should be run only by night, and the heating and the whatsoever. The blinds going down when it's like 11 and going up when it's 6.
Okay, that's some light sensors, man.
That's what I'll do. Yeah. And some history, so we can see what switches being used and when. You can see all these things here. There are different kind of switches. So some switches are like three-state, three ways, like up and down and stop. Some of them are just on-off. Some of them are just on, like click. It's electricity, pretty much. So this is all that application does. Schedule details. So quick lesson learned. In the beginning, I had a Wi-Fi module, a Wi-Fi card. Basically, it sucked big time because the Wi-Fi was, and the whole setup is in basement, so that was problematic. Now it's Ethernet and it's alrighty. Then I thought that maybe I'll do some soldering and putting some voltage on some different GPIO pins. This is a very bad idea if you don't know what you're doing, so don't play with high voltage or higher than 3 volts. Raspberry Pi is a very cheap thing, so it's not high quality, especially SD cards. My SD card failed like 3 times, so it's good to have some sort of backup.
Cluster of Raspberry Pis.
Yeah.
It's very often that you get fake SD cards. Fake ones, the ones that don't have enough data actually that they happened to be with the Raspberry Pi like 3 times.
Really? Yeah, for me happened that there were some bad sectors basically, and it started to failing out of thin air. If you use GPIO as I use with that device here, which you connect, so GPIO has some purpose, most of them. Some of them are like general usage, but some of them are with 1s at the boot or with 0 at the boot. It's not a good idea to put something really critical and change the... So you start the system and you set up the initial states that you like. But if it restarts and you connect that to your gate, for instance, and on restarts your gate can go up because there was 1 and you would change it to 0 after some time, but so this is not a very good idea, or just don't put a voltage on that board if you're not ready. And generally soldering and assembling things by your own, it's necessarily not a good idea. There is plenty of ready-made components as I showed you. There are very small components. Well, I did soldering for those Windows blinds where I needed to put 12 volts, sorry. So it's driving me nuts. But you can actually buy that component, which costs like €1 or €2. So in good electronic stores, you can get everything you like. Yep, that's pretty much it.
So the project is open source?
It's open source, yeah.
You made this.
Yeah, that's what
This?
This is the first bit.
Yeah, I made it, yes. This is made from scratch.
I thought you said something you already have.
So this is PiHome at my account and PiHome API. So this one is very old Angular thing, and this is Python part.
So when are you switching to GraphQL or the new one?
Well, one of the things I didn't put in lesson learned, but it's worth mentioning, is that this is terribly slow. The Raspberry Pi, running all those Redis stuff and Celery, it's kind of slow. And the Raspberry Pi 3 should be better. So for instance, there is no Mongo there. I use Mongo in the cloud, and everything I offload from that shit because it's slow.
But actually, you mentioned that you recently, well, last time we presented that you had Rabbit and Rabbit, Celery, Mongo, and Flask and things, and then you switched Rabbit to Redis, right? So that's
yeah.
Then you use Rabbit for as Redis for as a broker for Celery tasks, right?
That's right, and for caching.
And for caching.
For caching states of switches.
So actually, you can install Redis.
Why not using MySQL for every task you
you mentioned before?
Because MySQL cannot be backend for Celery.
Can be, but not for the current version, but up to version, as far as I remember, 3.1, it can be.
I have 3.2, sorry.
I was using MySQL as a backend for Celery, so I know that.
MySQL is not fun technology, so I wanted to try something. Sorry, just one.
Redis is much lighter as well, so you want to be light resources. And
Yeah, well, compared to Rabbit, it's way fast.
MySQL as well, I guess. And actually, you can get rid easily Mongo, and if you use Redis streams, then you have time series for your history, and you can get killed Mongo. And
you can kill Mongo as well.
Yeah, the thing is, I use the Mongo in it's called Compose.io, and it's for free. In the cloud.
I have a suggestion as well. Since you switched to Redis, I assume recently you can also kill memcache.
I don't use memcache anymore.
So when you mentioned kill it.
No,
I didn't update. I didn't have time to update the slides, but I use memcache for key value cache. Now it's all in Redis. Thanks to Mr. Dziecia.
So what else can we do with it? Like what?
Coffee machine?
It can control coffee machine, anything that you can interrupt with electrical power. It's okay. You just
you control everything.
She uses that. I can see what.
Have you tried to connect an assistant of sorts that does voice recognition, like Alexa or Google Home?
Nope. Nope.
You have public APIs to do it on your phone.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Alexa could be quite nice.
Do you think about using machine learning to know your wife's hobbies, for example?
That's one of the things. Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, the only thing that we use it on daily basis is when my daughter or we are going to have a bath, and we turn on the circulation of hot water. So we need to do it by hand. Well, I schedule that as well for 8, where she usually goes to have a bath. But I want to do that in the future when I'll have more time, which is probably in 50 years, to have some machine learning to predict when particular switch should be turned on. So this is something I would like to do, but I don't have time for that.
Actually, you could probably do it really fast just by initiating the model now and start training it, because you already do it manually, right? So every time you turn it on, just send to a model training thing. And
He's storing data anyway. You can run it later.
All
this storage.
Yeah, it's in Mongo. It's in Mongo.
Is the ready thing done?
Will do.
So what's next?
Will be logistical question.
The next, I want to revamp that UI a bit because it's we usually use it on our phones, so I'll probably do that in Ionic, just as native app, and maybe play around with some machine learning to predict when switch should be turned on.
How about some more sensors or something? Is there anything you plan to do in your house, like
light sensor?
I will plan to do light sensor for sure. Nothing more. Maybe I'll connect the blinds on the first floor because I have 5 blinds on the ground floor, and maybe I'll connect the other ones on top. Other than that, it's nothing.
Security cameras, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Could be security cameras and the PR sensors for the the machine learning part could go along with the motion sensors. So whenever someone's walking by, then we know that something's happening. We probably need to turn on something.
Turn on the machine then.
Yeah.
Did you monitor the electricity usage before and after, or you're not monitoring that?
Nope.
Just for fun.
Well, just for fun is okay. I would be curious to see if anything changed.
No, not really, but the window blinds is really gain because there is the switches I have is like you need to push it and to hold it till the blind goes up, which is 30 seconds. So we have 5 of that. You need to do that every time, So it will do like idiot, stand, open, open. Oh yeah, now she can do that.
You can pay it on, it's available.
Yeah. So it saves me like 2.5 minutes in the morning and 2.5 minutes in the evening, so it's 5 minutes per day.
It's already paid off.
Yeah.
Alright.
And now you need to go to XKCD site called automation.
Okay.
Cool. Perhaps WebSockets maybe?
I plan to do WebSockets.
You see your wife turning switches on and things?
No, yeah, I wanted to do that. As you can see, this turn on automatically do the scheduled part. I want to do WebSockets and I want to rewrite it to Angular 2, but the Raspberry Pi 2 doesn't support Python 3, so you won't be able to run a WebSocket.
You can do maybe Node with like GraphQL subscriptions with Redis.
It's a Raspberry, man. It already has like Celery.
You already
I already key rabbit, so no. But on Python 3 they support on Raspberry Pi 3 they support Python 3, so this is or that.
Also kind of async.io.
That's Python 3, right?
Yeah.
That's Python 3. Right here. Thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Shots?
Yes. Bitcoin gets 12K.
Really?
It was.
Did you get a message? Thank you very much. Awesome.
Thank you.